Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our buddy James Vandenberg joining us again. James, former Hawkeye quarterback, now doing very well in the financial services industry. Looking forward to catching up with James because who better than James knows the story of Jackson Stratton? James lived that out in his playing days at Iowa, or at least has some familiarity in QB1's helmet. Well, first of all, thanks for joining us. Happy early Thanksgiving, and how's everything going with you, my friend?
All good here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's always great to see you. And not just this week, but any week in particular, it's always great talking to you because you can take us inside the helmet of QB1 at Iowa. But this is a special set of circumstances. Jackson Stratton comes into the season as the number 5 guy, walk on from Colorado State. And now he is jettisoned to the starting quarterback, was the backup for when Brendan Sullivan got injured at UCLA, came in the third quarter, acquitted himself quite nicely, got his first start. And James got his first victory in the Big Ten, not only in the Big Ten, but on the road. Talk about what that's like to come in as a backup. One, you know the team's going to rally around you, and they did, or you hope they do. You got a stud like Caleb Johnson running the ball behind you. You got great tight ends to go to. 10 for 14, 76 yards. Wasn't asked to do a whole lot, but he did everything he was asked of, James.
Yeah, no, I think he did a great job. Getting that week of practice really helps. It's a little bit harder like at a UCLA when you get tossed in there, but I mean, ultimately, this offense isn't built around a single guy or throwing for 300 yards. And I think you saw that. We were able to manufacture plenty of offense without having to force him to throw it 35 times. That's a good thing for him and the team in general.
Not just about Jackson Stratton, but in the past, you and I have talked about this offense, the much maligned offensive line. And my goodness, this year they've really put it together. And James, no better time to put it together on the road at Maryland, a top 30 rush defense. The Iowa offensive line dominated them, James.
Oh, completely dominated. I mean, rough financial math, the 50 carries, 280 yards, were over 5 yards a carry. So keep doing that. They've done that all year, though. It's an experienced group. Caleb Johnson's been around a while now. I mean, everybody's experienced that's involved with that. Our tight ends are great blockers. Yeah, I think it's been our formula all year, and it just gets more highlighted. But I guess it's even more fun when the other team kind of knows that, hey, you're on a 4th or 5th string guy here. Like, you're probably not going to throw it a lot, and you still see us completely control the line of scrimmage. That's a testament to that group as a whole.
So, James, take us inside the meeting room. What was that week? I know it was a bye week, which came at a very good time for the Hawkeyes, injury-wise, especially with Jay Higgins being able to come back and play, although he was still dinged up. And it was nice to see Jackson Stratton get a little extra time post that UCLA game. You went through that again with Rick Stanzi a little over 15, around 15 years ago. What was that like? And by the way, belated happy birthday, Kirk Ferentz and Pat Anger and Gary Dolphin talked about your birthday. It was this past weekend. So happy belated birthday, my friend, as you smile. But your name was brought up in that post-game presser or in the post-game conversation on the radio between Dolph, Pat Anger, and Coach Ferentz, and then your birthday came up. But then he also talked about you being the backup to Rick Stanzi. And that's my question is what you had to go through as a backup at Iowa, the meeting rooms, around the team meetings. What's that whole prep week like? And luckily, again, as we said, he had a little extra advantage, Jackson Stratton did, an extra bye week to get some extra training and tutelage.
Well, I think I had a similar advantage back then that he's had the last couple of weeks, and that it's a very senior-laden team. There's so much experience on both sides of the ball. So many guys have taken so many Big Ten snaps that, one, they can welcome him in and kind of bring him into the fold, but he's not required to go above and beyond. We have a good football team. We're sound in all the phases, and there's so much experience there. So, yes, the quarterback is important. People probably highlight it too much, both on the good and the bad. And this is just a classic example of next guy in a senior-laden football team and coming in and doing his job. And, yeah, does it look a little bit different than it looked week 2? Yeah, it does, and it will, and it should, and his strengths are going to be different and all that. But ultimately, we've got a veteran football team, and he folded in really nicely, and getting a win on the road is a big deal.
Talk about that a little bit, future moving forward, what this does for Jackson Stratton's confidence. I'm not saying, it's going to be a Brendan Sullivan and Jackson Stratton battle next year for the starter, but at least he's got a feather in his cap moving forward.
Well, and we for the coaches, it's nice to get a glimpse. I mean, this is real action, real bullets being fired. They get a better, I mean, Lainez has played in the bowl game a little bit. Stratton's taken some bullets now. Obviously, Sullivan's now gone in there. I mean, they're getting some weathered guys to where you don't know when you're going to have a year like this. And at quarterback, it obviously doesn't happen very often, but we've showed that it can happen, and you need to know who these guys are. And that, yeah, that'll make it to where we have more depth no matter who ends up on top. I guess I'm glad Nebraska got their whole bowl eligibility thing out of the way. So that's not some giant motivator, but clearly a team that's, I mean, stepped up compared to the last couple of years and clearly has some young talent. So we'll have our hands full this week. It'll certainly be a better offense than we saw against Maryland. And yeah, we need to get through Friday, senior day for a lot of seniors. It's Friday, it's senior day. It's a good opponent in Kinnick. It'll be a night game. It'll be great. So one more good Big Ten matchup.
But James, as we know, this game has been a tight game, especially the last couple of years. The Hawks dominated until the last couple of years, and then it comes down to one score, a field goal. Hawks lost 2 years ago, won last year on a Marshall Meter field goal. I know who Marshall Meter, but Drew Stevens has kind of put that aside now with a great year. And by the way, Drew Stevens with 5 field goals at Maryland is your Big Ten special teams player of the week. So couldn't be any happier for him. But James, look forward to catching up with you. We'll do a postseason wrap-up once we get through this Iowa-Nebraska game, and then we'll talk about bowl prospects then. So I didn't mean to jump the gun on you, but always good to see you, James, former Hawkeye quarterback James Vandenberg. Thanks so much, James.
Thanks, Dave.
Great to see you again, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. So for James Vandenberg, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by BettorEdge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on BettorEdge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kajewski, BettorEdge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at bettoredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. BettorEdge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Mitch Fick joining us. Mitch, of course, anchor at Fox 28 and CBS 2, also does a lot of sports, and of course his fantastic Eye on the Hawks podcast that he does with our buddy Owen Sebring as well. So check that out. You'll see all of Mitch's information at the bottom of the screen, along with mine and all of our guests throughout the show. And so be sure to check that out. So Mitch, great to see you. Welcome aboard and happy early Thanksgiving to you. How's everything going with you today, my friend?
Same to you. It's Nebraska week. It's a fun week. It's gonna get real cold at Kinnick. Possibly the coldest game we've had in stadium history there. You go back to 2013, and I believe it was 19 degrees at kickoff against Michigan. And this is a night game. That was a day game. There's gonna be a little difference there, but it's you brave the elements and you embrace the elements because it all comes down to this, and that's what makes it so fun.
Well stated, and I think that's more for the fans, the coldness, because thankfully there'll be no moisture, not a lot of wind, so it should just be a raw, night. And well, remember last year, the day game, even in Nebraska, it was bitter and raw, even though it wasn't as cold temperature-wise. When you schedule a game on November 29th, you'll probably get that. So, and then they move it to prime time, it even exacerbates that. But as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, November 26th, Mitch kind enough to join us after the Hawks presser today. Any big news jump out at you, Mitch? I know there were 3 glaring people that are going to be out. Of course, we know about Cade McNamara and Brendan Sullivan. It's going to be Jackson Stratton's team to run. But Jennings Dunker out, bummer still, as you mentioned. And then, of course, Reese Vandersee out still. And then Jamari Harris. So anything else jump out at you from the presser day? Any comments from Coach Ferentz?
Other than that, everything else sounds like people are healthy. And that's all you can ask for last week in November, to have only 3 guys out that are, maybe close, but aren't going to be able to go. It's everything you can ask for as you go for an 8th win in the regular season.
Oh, absolutely. And as you mentioned to me off the air, let's bring it on here. Well-deserved senior day or night on Friday for the Hawkeyes. And what a great thing. 23 seniors, well-deserved, hard-earned, and they're going to get their flowers, literally and figuratively. But it's going to be a great deal of motivation for the Hawks. But also, I'm kind of glad. I rarely, if ever, pull for Nebraska, but I am glad they beat Wisconsin last week, because now they're finally bowl eligible, and maybe they'll be a little less motivated. I don't know, but the Hawks obviously coming in at 7-4, and behind Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. Hawks right there. at or near the top of the Big Ten standings. So this game means a lot. So a lot on the line is why I'm bringing all this up. I don't want to get cart ahead of the horse. But if anybody's wondering, oh, it's the last game, it's senior day, that's motivation enough. You know, bowl standing, where you are in the Big Ten, there's a lot to play here. Besides, Mitch, oh, by the way, a border rivalry. This has been a bitter battle for a long time. A trophy game. And until the last couple of years, Iowa has dominated this in the last 10 years. So a lot on the line on Friday night, Mitch.
Yeah, you know, I tend to take the mindset of the players. Maybe that's just projection on my part, trying to keep up with them of just, yeah, let's not worry about where they're going bowling. You are going bowling, you got 7 wins. You got a big task at hand, especially, like I said, these last couple of weeks as Holgerson is settled into Lincoln. And, you know, that offense clicked a little bit out in Southern California and really looked great back in Lincoln last Saturday. So, yeah, you got a task at hand to handle. And, yeah, with everything that is out there and the fact that, hey, 2 years ago when Nebraska was in here, they ruined a senior day.
But, Mitch, what might have been 1-point loss Iowa State at Kinnick. Michigan State had that game. And I don't want to live in repose because there's still a game to play, but maybe this is for the post. But this is a team that really, after all is said and done that they went through this year, you know, had the game at Michigan State, had they gotten the stop and could have driven for the game-winning drive. Same thing at UCLA. Had they gotten the stop, potential game-winning drive. The only game they weren't really in was the Ohio State game. So the reason I'm going through all these other games, the 3 losses and then in Ohio State, the 4th loss, this team has gone through a lot. And to be standing where they're standing at potentially 8-4, Mitch, again, I'm not into moral victories, but pretty darn cool season for this Hawkeyes.
I think it just shines a light on how friggin' amazing it is. They went 10-2 last year, right? You know, you had a very similar situation where you lose your starting quarterback, you lose your top 2 tight ends, who thankfully Luke Lachey and Addison Ostrenga are both back. I mean, Iowa lived by the skin of their teeth, and that's Iowa football, right? You win the close ones, and when you can do that year in and year out, you get some really special seasons. If you don't, again, we're talking about if they can beat Nebraska and win a bowl game, your down year, your disappointing year is 9-4. How many programs in America would kill for 9 wins? You know, I talk about Minnesota and PJ Fleck's a friend, and for him to win 9 games, I think 3 times now in his tenure up there, you know how tough it's been to win 9 games in Minneapolis for the last century? You know, there are so many programs that would love to have an 8-4 regular season and go win a bowl game. Now you set your expectations and your goals higher than that, certainly. But if that's your down year, you know, even 8-5 in 2022 for that team that just got so close to winning the West and going to a title game again. Yeah, you know, the past is the past. You got to deal with it. But you got opportunities ahead and a chance to send out a really special senior class on really high notes. So yeah, if you can win 9, you go win 9, and you could end up with 53 wins for these guys who got here in 2019 as redshirt freshmen who came back for a 6th year. That's a heck of a run to average almost 9 wins a season over that 6-year stretch. That's pretty impressive.
Absolutely, and that's why you and I are on the same page here. And I think a lot of people are. Some that want to, you know, throw dirt on Kirk Ferentz with this program. It's like, man, look at what you have, and you'll careful what you wish for, because as you mentioned, there are a lot of programs. I would say almost all programs, with the exception of a few, who would want to have the success over the last quarter century plus Kirk Ferentz and the Iowa Hawkeyes have had. So props to the offense and the offensive line specifically, but the defense too. You know, Jay Higgins played dinged up. Big tackles, big interceptions, some guys stepping in the defensive backfield with, as we mentioned, Jamari Harris being out. So some guys who were maligned all year in the defensive backfield came to play and have stepped up. And so I got to give those guys mad props and give them their flowers. And you and I are today passing out all these congratulations, but deservedly so. Again, even though Billy Edwards, starting quarterback and at or near the Big Ten in passing, got knocked out of the game with injury in the middle of the first quarter or end of the first quarter, but still the same. They still had to play defense, and Felton was still a great receiver and got 2 touchdowns. And I just couldn't sing the praises enough of the defense being dinged up. Again, no excuses, but they've had some troubles this year, but seemed to get it right against Maryland, who seemingly we thought they were going to chuck the ball over the yard in the defensive backfield, and the rest of the defense really stepped up, Mitch.
You know, one of my favorite memories and moments of this season is TJ Hall finally getting an interception. A guy who 2 years ago against Nebraska had to go in for Cooper DeJean when Cooper got banged up, and TJ got picked on. We talked to him earlier this year about just, I mean, he got thrown in the fire and he got burned a couple times. Absolutely. And it happened this year too, a couple times. For him to, in a moment where, you know, Iowa was up 2 scores, but Maryland was getting a little momentum, and they could easily go down and get a third score there. For him to make the type of interception he did, I feel bad that it was on the road, because if he makes a one-handed kind of diving interception at Kinnick, you're glad there's not a roof on Kinnick, because it would have got blown off. I mean,
Yes.
It would have been an incredible moment for a kid who's taken lumps, and was talking to Nick Jackson about him today, of just a guy who just locks in and works hard and doesn't get too high or too low. And man, I was so thrilled to see him have a moment like that. It was great to see John Nestor back healthy, had a big tackle on special teams, a guy who's been in that cornerback spot as well. And then, Max Llewellyn disrupting guys, and he got the hit on the quarterback that got Jay Higgins that interception. That Max Llewellyn spin move is something special. So that whole defense to go out there, and the defensive line in general.
Hopefully the Hawks can get a victory on Friday night, Black Friday, 6:30 p.m. national TV NBC kick at Kinnick against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Mitch, my friend, thanks so much. It's always great to see you.
Likewise. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
And to you as well, and the viewers as well, Mitch. So for Mitch Fick, Fox 28 and CBS 2 anchor and sports guy, Eye on the Hawks podcast. Check that out. So for Mitch Fick, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more Hawkeyed to close out the show with our buddy Scotty P in the sports betting segment with Scott Pritchard. Back with more Hawkeyed in just a few moments.
Hi, this is Joe Mershman from Mershman Seeds. Substitutions cost you money. Why take their seconds when you can have our first choice? Here's Ben Paper to tell you more about Mershman Power Core Enlist corn.
We are way ahead of Big Seed on this one. This corn has 4 different post-herbicide tolerances, multiple modes of action for above-ground pests, and it is some of the highest-yielding corn genetics that are out on the market today.
If you're one of the many that got substituted on your corn hybrid last spring, contact your local Mershman Seeds dealer today and ask them about Power Core Enlist corn. From Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. In a moment, you'll see our buddy Scott Pritchard joining us on the screen. Always pleased to have Scotty join us. Scotty P, professional sports bettor in Vegas, 30-plus years, full-time professional sports bettor. Got some Vegas updates for us and some contests. But we're going to talk about that Hawkeyes Nebraska Cornhuskers game this Friday. Scotty P, first and foremost, as always, you can find Scotty's information at the bottom of the screen. You see it along with mine and all of our guests throughout the show at the bottom of the screen. At Pritchard Wins via social media or pritchardspicks.com. And of course, be sure to check out his free picks and paid picks there, as well as his fantastic Let's Bet show, weekly show. So Scotty P, first and foremost, as always, thanks for joining us. And secondly, happy early Thanksgiving to you and all the viewers, my friend.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Greg, and everyone there. I'm telling you, man, a lot to be thankful for.
Our friends at Circa had the Hawks as a 5.5-point favorite right now on Tuesday, the 26th, and the total at 39.5. How do you see this game? Are you betting it, not betting it? I said to you off camera, I'm not sure I would touch this game. And what did you say off camera? Let's bring it on camera.
I wouldn't bet the total with your money.
Well, I appreciate that. How nice of you. But what about taking care of me and my money? I like that. What about the spread? Do you like the Hawks ATS against the spread, 5.5? Or do you do a money line? Do you like this game at all for the Hawks?
I do like the game. Nebraska on the road taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Big game. I'm telling you, the line, the point spread opened Iowa minus 3.5. The early money today up to Tuesday has come in at minus 4, 4.5, 5. To your point, David, it's up to 5.5. So all the money, all the sharp money, all the wise guy money, all the unfair advantage money has been on your Iowa Hawkeyes. The total, 39.5. I don't have an opinion on the over. I do not have an opinion on the under. I do have an opinion on the side. What does that mean in English? I'm glad you asked. It means that more times than not, as a sharp 31 plus years here in Las Vegas, having won sports handicapping contests, if you look at my resume of picks over the past 3 decades, I generally bet dogs plus the points. I generally bet unders, and I see the cashier on a regular basis. I do not blindly go into these games, my friend, and just bet the points. In this case, it would be Nebraska. In this case, I do not like the Cornhuskers. I do not like the Iowa Hawkeyes minus the 5.5. Why? Again, good question, and I'm glad you asked. I do not like the Hawkeyes minus the 5.5. Why would I lay 5.5 when a few days ago I could have laid 3.5? What I will say, I do see value. You had mentioned that at Circa, David, that the point spread is 5.5. It's 5.5 everywhere except bookmaker.com. If you have an account there, the line is a 5. It's a flat 5. I don't really think there's a huge difference between 5.5 and 5. My money will be on the money line. I like the Hawkeyes minus $1.98, almost 2-1. And here's why. It goes back to being a dog player. Instead of taking the points with Nebraska, I don't like it. I don't feel safe. I think Iowa is the right side. But to my point, Iowa can win this game 28-24, and they'll be popping champagne, uncorking the champagne. They will be happy like they just won the college football championship game. And yet, if you took Iowa minus the 5 and a hook, you would be a loser. Take the Hawks minus $1.98 on the money line. See the cashier.
I love it, Scotty P. And here's why. When everybody sees this, they don't see it until early, late Friday night, some early Saturday morning over the weekend. So the game will be over. You and I will look like we're brilliant because I know you're going to hit it. The Hawks are going to win this. I just got a feeling. I like money line better than the point spread too, my friend, and I wouldn't touch that total either. So let's talk about you guys survived the Grand Prix in Vegas, a race week. Mike Palm and I talked about it last week on radio, on the Circa radio show. But I got to tell you, it was cool to watch on TV for the second year. It ran a lot more smoothly. I know the setup was easier. Vegas wasn't as gridlocked as it was traffic-wise as it was the previous, the first year of the inaugural. So it was good to see that rolling out. Verstappen wins the championship. But the interesting thing is you've got to tell us where you are today when we mentioned our friends at Circa Sports and how you're doing in your contest. Again, folks, as Scott mentioned and I've mentioned, that bears repeating, 31 plus years as a full-time professional sports bettor in Vegas. Very successful. Scott said his resume speaks for itself. 60 plus win percentage on free picks, 66% on paid picks. If you take it aggregate out over the years, 60% plus is just crushing it. So Scotty, talk to us about contests. Talk to us about it. And then my favorite phrase in sports betting, the empathy suite, stadium swim, Vegas, Circa. Talk to us, my friend, contests.
Well, as you know, the world's largest and the world's best sports book, there's only one. It's Circa. I love Derek Stevens. I love Mike Palm, the VP of operations at Circa. They're one of the select few. They're not afraid to take a bet. I don't always bet at Circa because I like betting into soft numbers. I'm an advantage player. So the good news is Circa will take a bet. The bad news is their lines are sharp, sharp, sharp with the capital F. But the bottom line is if I have an opinion, which I've been known to have, I don't mind stepping up, unloading the wagon on my opinion. So I love Circa. They have what they call the Circa Invitational, the World Championship of Sports Betting by invite only. It's the third year. Last year I was invited. The year before they thought I was in Thailand, but I wasn't. So last year I took third out of 16. This year they expanded it to 25 of the world's best, and they just started cutting people 3 weeks ago. So 6 have been cut. First of all, 25 of the world's best. Everyone has a fear. Someone has to take 25th. No one wants to finish 25, but it could happen to anyone. Fortunately, it's not happened to me. And then the second thing is no one wants to get cut. Well, 6 of the 25 have been cut. I'm in the top 7 as we speak. 6 weeks to go. We go 7 games, point spreads and totals, college and pro football. And to that point, I'm going to be on VSiN Friday night, just the day after Thanksgiving at 7 o'clock on YouTube TV, talking about my top 7 plays, college and pro versus the point spread and totals. Another contest that I'm happy about is the Golden Nugget Ultimate Challenge, the season-long contest. No totals. I love totals, but no totals. Last year I took 6th. They give cash back to the top 20 as we speak, like last week, like the week before. I keep winning, but the top dog keeps winning. I'm in second place, 1 game out of first. First place for $1,000 entry pays $60,000 to make it holla. Wish me luck. I'm 1 game back.
Good luck. You won't need it, but I'll wish it to you anyway. So, Scott, what I love about talking about all these ins and outs with you in Vegas and life out there and being a full-time professional sports bettor, I thank you for taking us inside. I know you give us the picks and your thoughts and your opinions, but the great thing when you mentioned Mike Palm, and well, Derek Stevens, the owner and proprietor, but Mike Palm, VP of operations, like you, like me, and most of our viewers, Mike is an Eastern Iowa native or an Iowa native. So from the Dubuque area originally, Notre Dame alum. We won't hold that against him, but it's always good that we can bring that home feeling back. You, me, and Mike, all three of us Iowa natives. So Scotty P, as always, can be found at Pritchard Wins via social media, pritchardspicks.com. Check out that fantastic Let's Bet show that he does. Seminars galore. He'll give advice. Again, paid picks, free picks at pritchardwins.com. Scott Pritchard, Scotty P, my friend, as always, thanks for joining us again. Happy early Thanksgiving as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, November 26th. But happy Thanksgiving to you and the viewers. Thanks so much, my friend.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, David, and Greg and everyone there.
And happy Thanksgiving to you and the viewers, also to my production partners, Greg Kajewski and James Siles at BetterEdge and BetterEdge.com. So for Scott Pritchard and Mitch Fick and James Vandenberg, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeyed. Happy Thanksgiving, and that's all from us. Thanks to all of you.